Hello, everybody. Babak Hazrati here. Another session of free talk about guitars in general. Today, I want to focus a little bit more on, cleaning, maintenance, and stuff that you should watch for your guitar. So, when you own a guitar and you start using it, you should keep in mind that there are many things that you have to keep your eye on, and basically you have to be responsible for that instrument. Why? Because your instrument is like a tool. It's like a car. It's like a bicycle. So once in a while you go to gas station or you take your car to a mechanic, and or your bicycle needs a bit of a oil, needs a bit of air, or the tires, and little things here and there. Guitars are exactly the same, and sometimes if you overlook a little problem, it might turn to something more costly, and down the road you have to repair instead of maintain. So I just picked up one of my electric guitars, and today is a Sunday, so sometimes I plan to clean all my guitars, or like say the ones that I usually every day. They're my like a daily guitars, and I pick them up and just basically look at them, see, okay, if it's clean, that's the first thing you can do, clean your guitar, right? So it's the easiest one. Or then I look for little loose parts. Every movable part on your guitar or on anything in general can get, if it's got a knot and bolt or it's got a screw in the wood, they will all get loose eventually. So if you look at the guitar, if you start from the top, from the machine head, so from the machine head, some guitars have a nut here. This guitar doesn't. This guitar is a this machine head is like a vintage style from 50s or 60s style. So you see a bushing, but on the opposite side, you're gonna have these little screws that are holding the machine head in place. So once in a while you have to look at them, see if they're there. What if they kind of fell off of your guitar? I mean, I've seen all the scenarios, so you might say, oh, how can it fall out of the guitar? But it does. Or you know because this machine head, if you take these screws off, your machine head will spin. That's what's happening. So basically it's under constant tension, and it has a bit of a torque in it. It wants to move the same way that the machine head turns to tune your guitar. And you have like between 5 to 6 pounds of tension on each string here. So it means that those screws in the wood, they're sitting like this, they're twisting, so they're pushing against the wood. And I've seen it on cheaper guitars, or like a entry-level acoustics, that those screws start to basically push the wood away, and the hole becomes a little bit bigger, and the machine head overuse and more everyday playing start to turn. You don't see the turn, but start to turn, and they get loose, and they create more problems down the road, to the point that you have to take it to a repairman. And what they do, they take the machine head out, they fill the hole with the dowel or piece of wood and glue, they let it dry, they drill a new hole. So it's a process, and it's gonna cost you a bit of a labor, right? So machine heads is the very more important part of your guitar. Of course, very related to your tuning. And if you can't tune your guitar, you can't play the guitar, or you're gonna end up having a bad tuning or tuning issues. So it's the first thing you can do. Check it out, clean it up, especially when you're stringing your guitar. Take them off. Make sure that those screws in the back are they are like nice and tight. If you put a screwdriver in them and give them a bit of a turn, if you feel they're turning loose, it means they're stripped. So it's time to have a look at them and do the next step to fix the problem. And if not, then you just move on and check other parts. So for the most part, you have nothing to do with the neck. Any repair on a neck or any adjustment on the frets has to be done by a professional guitar technician. This is not the part that you want to, if you don't know much about guitars, this is not the part that you want to experiment, because that experiment might end up costly. The next part, the screws on the back. This is called neck plate, and Gibson guitars don't have it. PRSs don't have it. Some of them do. Most of Epiphones and some Jacksons, basically every guitar that has a set neck style, which the neck is glued to the body, doesn't have this plate. But Fender guitars and many other Ibanez's, they're all mostly, we can say 98% of them, they are bolt on. So it's not a bad idea once in a while you have a look at these guys, see if these guys are same way. If the screw is turning without any tension, it means the wood inside the neck is stripped. So then you have to take the further steps to get rid of those. One of the most possibilities is the strap buttons. These guys are holding your guitar when you use the strap and you're on a stage, jumping up and down. They take a lot of tension without you noticing them. The rule of thumb for me is whenever I grab my guitar, I just give them a bit of a twist. And if they do, come loose, which they always do, this part and the one in the back, they always go loose. This is impossible not to happen to you. And you have to really keep your eye on them, and you have to check them constantly, because I've seen many people coming to me with broken guitar that this guy stripped out. They were lucky. If they were lucky, they caught the guitar on the air basically before it hits the ground. And I've been in rehearsals that the guitar player just dropped the guitar right in front of me. So this thing happens, so take it very seriously. This guy, this button probably worth like $2, maybe $3, and if it's made out of gold, maybe 10. But it basically, the life of your guitar is based on that. So again, if the wood is loose, you have to deal with this a little bit more professionally. You have to, I might make a video later and talk about it, but if you don't know, ask some professional. And the other part on electric guitars, so we have the volume pot, and this is a switch. Usually there's nothing wrong with this guy until it kind of starts disconnecting, basically failing as its electronic duty, which is you have to replace it. There's no repair for these guys. As soon as these guys go bad, as soon as the jack or potentiometer goes bad, sometimes you can clean the potentiometer with a special spray, and usually you can get away with that. But this guy, the output jack, I'm going to talk about in a minute, when they fail, it's done. You have to get a new one, and you have to get a good quality one. Don't just replace it with anything you can get your hands on. So the other one is the potentiometer. So these are called volume knobs or tone knob. These knobs and this guitar, they're fastened by a screw on the side. But if you take this out, there's a nut here that is holding the potentiometer in a place. And that thing will get loose too. It's another thing, because any movable part that you change your volume while you're playing or testing your guitar, it always gives a bit of a basically transfer a bit of a torque or a force to the pot. And as do this over and over, the nut will get loose. And what happens is I've seen many, especially between younger audience, younger guitar players, they start spinning this guy and it will spin because it's loose. And what happens inside is you start spinning the wires to the point that they cut off. And then after a while you plug your guitar and you say, oh, there's no sound coming out of my guitar, or my tone pot doesn't work, or something like that. So anyways, if you turn this guy, it has to stop. There's a stop part. You can see that's the maximum volume or a minimum volume. But if get to the point that is kind of, you feel it stops, but if you apply more pressure, it wants to move forward. That's the time you have to take care of the problem. You have to take this guy out, and you have to, based on what the guitar is, on this Telecaster, the best way is just take the knob out, take the plate out with the whole component, and deal with it that way. You have to hold the pot from one side, and you have to tighten the nut from the other side. You cannot just do it from the top. There's another trick. You can put if it's a split shaft pot, you can put a flathead screwdriver on it and twist the knot, basically hold the pot from the top. But as a general rule of thumb, I would say if this is a new thing to you, just put your finger on the pot and twist the knot from the other side. So what else is on this guitar? Of course, there are the bridge screws. These are called saddles. They've got adjustment screws, and these guys are usually under tension, so it's really hard for them to come loose, but eventually they do. And these screws are called pickup adjustment screws, and basically those guys are under tension. So, and yes, and they usually don't come loose. So as a rule of thumb, maybe every month, maybe every 2 months at least, have a look at your guitar, clean it up. If you're restraining it, that would be the best time. Then you can have more access to the, this top of your guitar under the string area, basically. But have a good look at your components on your guitar, and make sure that they are sitting in a in a proper way. Make sure that screws are all tight, and if there's any problem, just investigate. Be a good investigator about the problems that can occur on your guitar, and for sure you're gonna save a lot of time, headache, and of course money down the road. Well, we'll be back in 10 minutes. Yeah, cleaning the fretboard is one of my favorite. I see every day guitars coming with very, very dirty fretboards to the point that I feel bad about the guitar. Yeah. Well, one of the questions that one of our friends asked me once is, how can we, store a guitar? What does it mean? Well, think about this. Like, imagine that you're going for like a 2 months vacation. So, yeah, what do you think? You should leave your guitar in the corner of your room and go? It's one of the options, and that option usually doesn't end well, and with damaging your instrument. And you have to consider that there's a lot of tension on the neck, and if you have an acoustic or classical guitar, on the neck and the top of your guitar, because constantly pulling both ways. So what happens when the guitar is, especially if it's in winter, the furnace is on, the temperature changes from cold in the morning and then hot in the evening, and that type of rise and fall of the temperature, it takes a toll on the wood. The wood becomes dry. First thing that happens on acoustic guitars, mostly acoustic guitars, because they're hollow. Electric solid guitars are, they don't really bend as much, but the acoustic guitar top will actually shift down, and they could the top of the guitar, this part of the guitar right before the bridge, it goes down to the point that this string, sometimes I've seen they touch the fretboard, and that's a very, very severe situation, that you leave your guitar in a hot room, or you leave it in an environment that is not very guitar friendly. Back to the topic, storing a guitar. So how you do that? The first thing that you do before storing your guitar is you clean the guitar. I don't know how to emphasize more, but dust, if you look at the dust, or if you look at the sandpaper, it's like dust glued to a paper. But that's a very fine grit sandpaper. Nevertheless, it is still a sandpaper. Dust has sharp edges. It's like imagine a rock this big with sharp edges, and make it small, like millions of, in the scale of million, and put it on your guitar. And yeah, it's dust, doesn't have weight, but what it does, it over time it penetrates the finish. And when it penetrates the finish and cooks there and sits there for a while, there's no way that you can just go and it goes away. There's no way you can clean it off with a this 2-inch brush, which is what I do every week on my guitar, and I do this and it's gone. And I've seen it. I had to I've done like basically restoration on some high-end guitars that they were dusty for, let's say, couple months, couple years, and the dust didn't come off easily, or made a stain, or made some sort of damage. So first thing you do, you clean your guitar. And I have a video for how to restring your guitar, which I show you how to clean it at the same time. Yeah, you can have a look at that one. But you need to clean your guitar thoroughly. You have to go everywhere and make sure there's no dust, especially between same thing, the dust can make corrosion on your on the metal part, the machine heads, on your bridge if it's an electric guitar, and start tarnishing those parts, but you don't want it to happen, right? Even if it's a relatively non-expensive instrument, you want to have it clean, right? So that's your first step. The second step is you should not leave the guitar with full tension, yet you should not leave the neck without tension, because for the whole life of guitar you're pulling the neck. And there is one more technical part of the guitar that you usually don't see. I mean, you never see it because it is built inside the neck. An steel string guitar, meaning electrics and acoustics, not the classical. Some classicals are builders are putting it part in the neck. It's called truss rod. Truss rod is a basically piece of metal. If you look at this nice green walnut piece of wood, that's why this guitar is routed for that. So basically, when they build the neck, when it's still like a kind of like a block, they put a router, make a hole here, and they put this basically a very long screw. And what it does, and you have an adjustment screw either on the heel side of the neck or on the front side of the neck, right under the nut. And what it does, when the string is pulling the neck goes this way, right? It's called concave. And when you put a wrench or some sort of tool and tighten the truss rod, it pulls your neck back. What it does, it straightens your neck. So always think about, there's always a fight between strings and your truss rod, and which is a good fight. You know, you adjust it and your guitar becomes, you know, playable and all that story. But if you want to store your guitar, it's not a good thing to leave your guitar like that. So you have to detune the strings. I would suggest tune your guitar on D standard. Standard tuning on guitar is E, right? E, A, D, G, B, E, right? So tune it on D or D flat. Leave some tension on the neck, but at the same time, loosen your truss rod, which is something that you have to probably even ask a professional, or if you can basically investigate or research about how it's done properly, and you need to have the proper wrench. So I would say if you're totally new to this, get help. And if you're handy and you think you can pull it off, then watch some YouTube videos and or you know, get a manual of the guitar. Every guitar comes with a manual about truss rod. Even a $200 you know, Yamaha acoustic, it comes with a piece of paper, tells you what the truss rod is. So loosen the truss rod to the point that it's totally loose, and leave a bit of a tuning on the neck, just to pull slightly. You don't want to let go of the neck. Go goodbye. Go backward, because for the life of the neck, it's been being pulled this way, and now you let it go. You never know how it's gonna react. So yeah, neck's got a bad temper. What about that? Anyways, then put your guitar in a hard case. If the guitar is valuable, usually they have a hard case. And if it's not if that your guitar doesn't have, especially if it's an acoustic, get a hard case. If your environment is very dry, that's for people who living in that kind of like a desertish area. That's area that gets cold in winter. It's hot in summer and hot and dry. There's not much, you know, humidity in the air. So you need to get a humidifier. And a humidifier is basically a little tool that sits in the hole on the acoustic guitar. It's got a sponge. You soak the sponge in water. You put it in. It basically keeps the inside of your guitar wet. So keeps the humidity in a good level. So yeah, that would be probably the way that I store my guitars, which I'm actually doing. So I clean the guitar, I release the tension on the truss rod, I release the tension on the strings a little bit. Say I tune them to D, put them in a hard case, and where I'm living, the humidity is not a factor. It's pretty high actually here in Vancouver, BC, and I just put in a hard case and I put it in a closet, away from sunlight, away from furnace and direct heat. And that guitar can live for a long time. every once in a while I take them out, I clean them up. I use this guy, which is my favorite, Gibson polish, and it's kind of creamy and makes them it makes the finish a little bit more gentle and, you know, soft. So I hope this video has helped you guys, and I'll be making more videos on Sundays, and I'll be talking to you guys online soon, and have a good week ahead of you.